Wash your hands, avoid sick people, and touching your face. There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. Brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
The views and opinions expressed by the host and DJs do not necessarily state or reflect those of WOTG Network and its management. Furthermore, the views and opinions of the guests and singers do not reflect the host, the show, the management, and the WOTG Network, WOTG Radio, and WOTG TV. So thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned for some amazing programs.
My life to him, I got so much to thank him for, and I've got so much to thank him for.
Well, hey, welcome back. It's a little bit awkward tonight. We're usually on Tuesdays and Sundays on WOTG TV. But here we are tonight, and we're trying to work around an IT term that I had not been used before. I have been shadow banned. What that means is that without me knowing it, they have not been allowing our broadcast to go to our followers or those that we shared it with. To see what would happen, I sat down and sent all 3,800 of all of my friends and followers a message, and I sent them last Tuesday's program. Only about 5% of those actually went through. I had people call me from all over the United States and then actually other countries saying, we tried to watch the broadcast, but one lady said it even shut her phone off, shut her phone down. She had to go back and start her phone back up, and then she couldn't even get on the channel, couldn't even get on Facebook on our page. So what we're going to do tonight, we're going to try to go very quickly. And excuse me, we want you to call all your friends, try to set up watch parties, trying to call them right now, tell them to either get on or try to share this with them as soon as we're done, and see if we can't get this message out. This is probably one of the most important messages we've taught so far. Now, we are living in a very confusing time, and nobody needs to explain to you how uncomfortable, how inconvenient, and how frightening this quarantine, this government rule, and if you'll allow me to say it like this, with fear they have imposed on us a sort of martial law. Now, how do we get around this? What's going on? What do we do? I've had people call me, Brother Haygood, should we get ready to go to the mountainside? Should we get ready to retreat? What should we do? We are in a very, very, I'm going to say, hard dilemma right now. Trying to find the mind of God, trying to be where God would have us be at the right time in the right place. But to be there, we need to know what's going on around us. Now, I know for a fact that God gave me a vision 44 years ago, and, I don't want to beat that horse to death, but he showed me that there would be riots in the streets, and there would be turmoil, and there would be lawlessness like we've never seen before. And when that happened, he said that is the time to start looking up for answers. Now, right now in America, we are not having peaceful demonstrations. We are having anarchy. It's an insurrection. In fact, I have a friend of mine, a very, very dear friend of mine, that's been in Portland the last several days. And one thing he told me is where his hotel room was, he was overlooking the downtown area. And he said, I don't know what this Black Lives Matters thing is all about. He said the thousands of people that were amassing in the parking lots around this hotel were all white Antifa kids, and there were rebel rousers in the group that was passing out bottles of concrete, lasers, stones, frozen water bottles, and revving those kids up to send them downtown to do mayhem and destruction. Now, I said this a couple of weeks ago. The Black Lives Matters group, I think, had a point. I really do. I think they had a right to stand up and be heard, but not to cross the line from a peaceful protest into felony actions and maiming, destroying, and burning somebody else's property. But they've been hijacked. Now, I talked last week about the coup that was going on that we could see, and the one that nobody seemed to be taking much notice to. So I've been asked by several to go back and to revisit that just for a moment because they didn't get to see the whole broadcast. Our whole theme in taking this to Wednesday night instead of Tuesday is that my IT guy told me that we might be able to get more of the broadcast out by just changing that one time from a Tuesday night to a Wednesday night to see if it would help. Now, I don't know how all this works. I really don't. I will not tell you that I am an IT expert. I will not tell you that I know the thinking or the workings of the minds of these people that think they control the world. But I do know the mind of God. Right now, while the world is looking at the burning buildings, we've got politicians that are sitting on committees and that hold offices that are telling the press, this is all a myth. There's no riots. Nobody's getting hurt. Nobody's losing property. They're not burning anything. That's all a Republican plot to make you feel frightened. Well, right now there's over 1,300 policemen that's either been wounded or killed trying to stop these peaceful protesters from tearing down their cities and burning up the neighborhoods. Everybody is focused on the nightly news. What's going on in Portland? What's going on in Seattle? What's happening in New York? What does Memphis look like tonight? Where is Los Angeles in the scheme of things? And what's really going on is that the world is shifting under our feet. Now, the media is calling it the new normal. But did you know that that's a Marxist term that they use when they're trying to quieten the masses? The new normal. It's not going to be the same, it's going to be better. The Bernie Sanders rejects that are coming out and saying, we're going to destroy everything we can if we don't get what we want. They told the Democratic convention, we will bust up your convention if we don't get all Medicare for everyone, including illegal aliens and those that have never paid a penny to the government, taxes, or into any program that takes care of our poor. So what's really going on? You talk about the new things, the weird things. Well, the first coup, of course, is the smoke and mirrors. And that is a page out of Saul Alinsky's playbook. He wrote the rules for radicals. Did you know that Hillary Clinton did her thesis on that when she was in college? Barack Obama used it as a community coordinator. As he put together protests, it teaches you how to take over a building, how to stop a government, how to put a city into dead stop, how to take the economy and ruin it to the place that they'll give you anything you ask for if you'll just let them get back to normal. But there is no more normal. I made this statement almost 44 years ago. Once we cross that line, we cannot go back to what we thought was normal. Now, when you look at the things that we're dealing with, we've got people that are afraid to even go to the grocery store. Somebody sent me a video just 10 minutes before we started this broadcast that showed a man being circled and beaten just because he was white and elderly. And they were videoing it, making sure they could show the world that they were in control and to strike fear. Well, I can tell you one thing. There are some people that are going to find out that not everybody that has gray hair is going to lay down and take a beating from them. We are on the verge of a powder keg right now, and they're just waiting for something to blow up. I don't want that. I pray it doesn't happen. I ask God every day to make sure that my family's safe, to show me what to do, to keep my anger under control. But I'm going to tell you something. There was an old country song one time that said, "Hoss, you're walking on the fighting side of me. Don't touch my flag, don't touch my family, and don't kick my dog." And not necessarily in that order. But that's not what we need to worry about right now. I don't feel I need to defend the honor of anyone, but I do need to defend my right and my ability to worship God in all conditions. With all the trouble around every side, we need to pray. We need to get a hold of God. But what is going on that we're not seeing? I told you last week that I guess it was about 20 years ago, whenever I started working on my book, and God gave me a plan for this book. And then one night, 3 o'clock in the morning, he woke me up and said, "Look up the National Economic Stabilization and Recovery Act." It's in the book, by the way. I said, "The what?" "The National Economic Stabilization and Recovery Act." Now, I wrote it down, got up the next morning, and began to look at it, looked it up on Google. And I found out that under the National Economic Stabilization and Recovery Act, which was put into effect after the Great Depression, the President of the United States or his cabinet can cancel all debt, issue stimulus money, they can change mortgage rates, they can even change the principal on the mortgage by resetting the dollar. Now, you say resetting the dollar, what happens then? That's when the government calls all the cash in and resets the value. Now, there's a man in the Federal Reserve, and he is the chairman. His name is Jeremy Powell. At November the 19th, he issued a letter telling everyone that they had to go to a digital currency and get away from the printed dollar in order to save the economy of the United States of America. Now, this is the chairman of the Federal Reserve. Since then, there has been a scramble in the Congress. It's not been broadcast. It's not been told or talked by many. But Maxine Waters and Nancy Pelosi has a bill, a 2,200-page bill, that they submitted in November, saying that we needed to change everything and develop, through the Fed and Fed-backed banks, a digital wallet and a Fed coin instead of paper money, instead of silver and gold. And when this was reissued, it would be reissued at a different value to try to stabilize the economic structure of the world. Now, there's nothing like fear to motivate. There's nothing like fear that causes men to make stupid decisions. The fear that you might lose everything you have will cause you to accept whatever they give you. Now, I talked about the Hegelian dialectic, and I've mentioned it several times, but here it is. The Hegelian dialectic says you create a problem, you step back, you see what the people do in this problem and with this problem, you see what they're willing to give up if you'll come in and fix the problem, then you come in and fix the problem, and then you keep whatever they have given you, whatever rights, whatever privileges they have given up, so that you could be their savior. And they do this over and over and over again, until finally the people look up and they have no rights. They're being dictated to on what they can do. I saw something the other day. I thought it was quite interesting. It said you can be a communist pretty easy in a free country, But in a communist country, you can never be free. We need to stop and look where we're going and where this is taking us. In this law, in this bill that is before the Senate right now, it was withdrawn right after Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters issued it because it was a little too blatant. So they drew it back. Dianne Feinstein helped rewrite a couple of the pages, and they reissued it, not this time to the House of Representatives, but to the Senate. While they are looking again at trying to find what the Durham report's going to be and what Attorney General Barr is going to do and what they're going to do with stimulus, and right now they're looking at giving another $1 trillion of paper money to the public and giving $600 a week to the unemployed and on and on and on. While we're focusing on that, they are pushing through the Congress trying to get passed into a bill a reset of the dollar and a change of our currency. Well, how do you know that they're doing this? Who's backing this? Who's responsible for this? Right now, this is being backed by the United Nations, J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, Citibank, the International Monetary Fund, the Clinton Foundation, the Gates Foundation, the World Bank, and of course the Federal Reserve. They are all working while you're watching buildings burn and you're worrying about riots and what cities are going to be destroyed. They are fixing to take away everything that you have worked for and replace it with total control. This is why I got shadow banned. I'm telling you the truth tonight. I can give you the bill numbers. I can show you where it's at. 2,200 pages. I sat down and read every one of them. And it scares me. They are introducing artificial intelligence. They are introducing total control. What do you mean by total control? Number one, they're going to pick up all the currency. We're seeing that now when you go into some businesses, either debit, credit, or gift cards only. No exact cash will be returned. We don't have change. Cash only is out. They're not going to use that anymore. I remember whenever we used to make a joke in New Orleans, it was so corrupt you had to have ID with cash. Well, that's over. And you don't even have to have ID now. You see, science fiction sometimes is weird. But right now, truth is greater than fiction. I've had a lot of people call me, hey, I had my relatives watch your show, and we looked at the broadcast, and Brother Haygood, thank God that you gave them links and sites to go to, because this thing sounds far out. But right now, they are looking at introducing into your body, into your bloodstream, into your brain, nanobots that will change the DNA and change the ability to control the masses. Also, it will keep track of you. You know, it's funny, in the Bill Gates agenda of ID 2020, everybody thought it was a wonderful thing whenever he said that he would be able to tell where everybody was at, and we wouldn't have any more lost kids, and we wouldn't have any more pedophiles being able to steal kids and market them, because we could find anybody anytime. Not only that, you wouldn't have to carry a wallet, because they would scan your eye and it would tell you how much cash you have in the bank and what you were buying if it was approved. Well, there's something called technological singularity. What does that mean? It means that they have injected you with nanobots that are pre-programmed to colonize in different parts of your body. And I watched something last night. In fact, it really disturbed me to the point that I had a hard time sleeping. They are saying that before the year 2025, which is only 5 years away, by the way, that you will be able to be hooked to a computer and that you can download all of your memory. And when the body that you're working in now wears out, they will have another one cloned, and they will upload that information into that cloned body, so that you, by passing from one sphere to the next, one body to the next, will never die. You say, Brother Haygood, is it? Are you telling us the truth? Yeah. Go to artificial intelligence may kill you one day. Look it up on the TED Talks. Look it up in the scientific journals. A professor named Kurzweil said that he can repair any part in the body, and that he can also change bodies as needed, so that you will never lose the wisdom or the strength or the leadership of the great men of the world. But guess what? They can do a lot of things with that artificial intelligence, but who's going to control it? Bill Gates filed for a patent, and he filed for this patent under the Global Assistance of Virtual, what is the word? Here we go. Global Association of Virtual Assistants. What does that mean? It means that Bill Gates holds the patent to take care of all of the AI that has been embedded. Now, the AI technology that he's talking about actually moves 100,000 times faster than the human mind. But why are you telling us all of this? I'm telling you this because there is a coup going on, and it's not the burning of buildings. That's one side of it. The other side is they're pushing us into the next generation of technology, the exponential curve. Instead of going like this or like this, it goes like this. They are ready for this. This was 10 years ago when they were talking about what they were doing then. They're doing it now. I looked in the AQHA magazine because I raise cutting horses in my spare time, if I have time. And I was looking at a horse called Highbrow Cat, which is the stud that fathered my horse. They have cloned him. And now the AQHA are accepting papers from the cloned horses as Highbrow Cat get our babies. They have accepted the cloning process. In Japan, in China, and also in Sweden, they have cloned human beings. But what do you do with memory? How do you get memory into them? Through the embedded AI. And that's how they're going to control the world. Well, what's that got to do with where the Christians are today? What are we doing with that? That's science. That's beyond us. That's another realm. No, it's not. Go back and read Revelation 13, somewhere between 11 and 18 verses. Chapter 13, verses 11 through 18, it talks about the beast, how he will rise up, how there will be a wound, how he will suddenly be healed of the deadly wound, and then he will be shown to the whole world, and he will control the world. But more than that, he will give a mark, which the Bible said, which is the mark of man, which is 666. And that mark will be your ability to buy, sell, trade, live in a community, raise your kids, send them to school. And if you don't have the mark, you don't get to go. You cannot buy or sell. What will that mark be? According to the scientist, with the artificial intelligence that is embedded in you, it will be set up that it can check your blood pressure, your body functions, your emotional, what stimulates you emotional. It will also tell you how much currency you have in your digital wallet. You see, they're calling this new currency the Fed coin because it's going to be issued through the Federal Reserve. It will be put into a Federal Reserve controlled bank into what is called a Fed wallet with your number on it. Now, I mentioned last week, I got a lot of calls on this one, that when I got my Medicare card, that they had taken my Social Security number off of it and given me a different serial number. I've been told that everybody in the world will be given a serial number, and anyone that has a Fed coin and a Fed coin wallet will have to use that serial number. And here's what you can and cannot do. If you have that, they will tell you what foods you can buy, how much you can buy. They'll tell you what medicines you can take, what doctors you can go to. They will also determine that if you're overweight, then you can't buy ice cream, chips, and salsa, or double meat, double cheese Whataburger. They'll govern your diet. They will govern your lifestyle. They will govern the kind of house you live in. If you have taxes, they will automatically deduct it. It will be on a flat tax basis. And here's the thing that I don't think you understand. This is what they're moving to. This is why we have Marxists and anarchy in the street right now. This is why Bernie Sanders was almost the captain of the hour for the Democratic Party. They will take all of the monies and all the credits in the Federal Reserve Bank and redistribute it in order to get a better spread on the wealth. If you have too much money, they'll take it out and give it to somebody else. You have nothing to say about it because they control it. And if you say anything about it, then you can no longer work in the marketplace. You see, they can cancel the access card that gets you in the door at your job. They can cancel the card that you use to buy gasoline with, or the credits that you would have to buy gasoline with. They will control you. The beast will have everything under his control because he will control the life-giving substance that it takes for you and your family. Now, I had an uncle one time. He was quite a rounder. I guess you'd call him a frogman back in World War II. Call them Navy SEALs now. But he was on a submarine, and they would pull in close to shore, and they would shove him through the torpedo tube. And he and his buddies would swim to shore, and they would mine the beaches, or they would disable bombs that were there, whatever it needed to be. Many times he was almost killed. In the process of living through World War II, he came home, and he didn't live for God. He was an alcoholic. And one day I was sitting in his living room, and we were talking about life, and he usually, after he had a couple of beers, he liked to be very outgoing with his philosophy. And he said, you know why? I've got it figured out. I don't have to go to church now, but I got it figured out. I'm going to go to heaven. I said, how's that, Uncle Joe? He said, whenever they come to give the mark of the beast, I'm going to put my head on the chopping block, and I'm going to let them cut my head off, and when they do, I will immediately go to the marriage supper of the Lamb. Regardless of how I live down here, regardless of what I do, I'm a womanizer, I'm a drunk, I do everything that I can that's against the Word of God, but when it comes to that day, I will give my life. I'll put my head on the chopping block. And without even thinking, a young 17, 18-year-old kid sitting there looking at my uncle who was a war hero, I said, Uncle Joe, you're a liar. He said, what do you mean? I said, you're trying to tell me that you will die for God, and yet I know you won't live for Him. There's going to be a time of choice. You keep thinking it's going to be awful ways. It's going to be, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. People are always saying, when is the Lord coming back? I tell them two things. When He gets ready, and there are prophecies that need to be fulfilled. But I also said, I'm not as worried about when He's coming as when I'm going. Because I've had a couple of close calls where I thought I was on my way. The world is being forced into what is called a death funnel. And that is where we are shoved into a narrow gap where we are in total control by somebody else. We are totally controlled. Where are you tonight? While you're sitting there looking at the first coup, which is to take away our freedom, which is to change our government, which is to deploy anarchists in the street, to defund the police, to take the military off the front lines and take them home and to debunk the entire military. That's what they want to do. They don't think we should protect ourselves. Well, one of the things that Saul Lewinsky's book said, create confusion, create havoc, make the enemy more fearful of you by making them think you have more power than you have. You need to read it, The Rules for Radicals. Everything you're seeing happening in our streets are laid out by a man that hated America. He was a Marxist. He raised Marxists. Hillary Clinton adored him. Like I said, she wrote her thesis on his book. Barack Obama used it as the guidelines to rule and reign in the community where he was the organizer. And now Antifa has taken it, and it's their hue and cry. But while all of that is going on, the 1%ers, the people that own most of the money, that control most of the power in the world, are moving ahead for total control of your life. You know, I guess when you see things that other people didn't see, I don't know if it sets you apart as somebody special or somebody tormented. But the Lord showed me a long time ago what was happening and where we were going. Do you know right now that Google is going worldwide buying all the companies that are developing artificial intelligence because they know that is where the control is going to be? Bill Gates has thrown in with Google and Apple, Facebook. That's why I've been shadow banned. I call names. So be sure you share this tonight before it's taken off the air. They've all thrown together to control the artificial intelligence so they can control the masses. But there's one other thing that they're going to do with this digital currency, with the Fed coin and the Fed wallet. They're going to know where you live, what you do, how many kids you have, what your job is, what your income is, what your productivity is. And they will determine whether or not the earth can afford your carbon footprint. Go to TED Talks, TEDTALKS, Bill Gates 2010, and listen to the speech he gives about how to kill 2.5 billion people by 2030 so that our carbon footprint does not overtake the world, the environment, as he calls it, Mother Earth. There is a plot going on to depopulate the earth that only have those people which are worthy of saving, led by those who think they have found immortality through recreating their body, their organs, and as Kurzweil said in one of his speeches, go to artificial intelligence, go to singularity by Kurzweil, technological singularity by Bill Gates, and see what they're planning. It is a coup. Just as sure as we are seeing a coup in the street, just as sure as we're seeing insurrection right now in major cities, behind the scenes, they are plotting for total control. And they want to hand this control over to someone that can bring the world together with a one world government a one world currency. And oh, by the way, they're going to have a one world religion, but by controlling you and the currency that you give, they will control this religious farce. This is where it talks about having a form of godliness and denying the power. They will have a one world religion, but it will not be worshiping God as we know it. Remember what it said in Matthew 24, be not deceived, be not deceived, be not deceived. Many will come in my name saying that I am Christ. But beware, they do not bring truth. While the cities are burning, the Congress is trying to put together a new currency, take control of the banks. It's happening as we speak. They have it all together in the bills that are before the House and also before the Senate to reset the currency with a digital coin. Where do we go from here? The only place that we can. Back to the Word of God, back on our knees, asking God for direction. I'm doing this tonight because God told me to be the watchman on the wall. I'm not trying to be a pundit. I'm not going to run for office. I'm not looking for someone to put my name in lights. I'm here to tell you that everything that's been prophesied is coming to pass more quickly than some of you want because you're not ready. Let me share this with you before we go. Jesus is the answer for the world today. Above him, there's no other. Jesus is the way. Let's pray. Mighty God, move right now with wisdom, with clarity, with strength. Let us see as you see. Let us separate the good from the bad. Let us see the things that are not obvious, but that are there just the same. That we can give a clarion word to your people. And that the church can bind themselves together as never before. For truly we need you in these days in which we live right now. HaygoodInternationalMinistries.com. We need your help. If you have $10, $20, $100, go to HaygoodInternationalMinistries.com. I have not asked like this before, but things are getting just a little difficult at times. Just share it with us. We're sharing with you. Let God bless you and tell you what to do. But one thing before I go. Each and every one of you know that this is truth. People have been calling in, Brother Haygood, we went to those links you mentioned, we went to those sites you mentioned, and it scared us to death because you were telling us the truth. It's here. It's not coming. It's your artificial intelligence right now are being put into our drones, into our weapons that we put on the battlefield, into the robots that we're using to fight battles with, and yes, we're doing that. But one of the things that they talked about in that artificial intelligence can kill you one day is that they are giving them kill commands and letting the computer make the decision on whether to drop the bomb or pull the trigger based on intel that's been fed into them. That's how far we've come in the last 5 years. It's going to be quick. It's going to be fast. Be ready for the change by hearing from God. Apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, and teachers. That's the fivefold ministry. Today is the day of the prophet. The prophet will not sit on the throne and rule, and he will not be on the white horse leading the army. But Amos said, I'll do nothing in the last days than first I whisper in the ears of my prophet, and he will lead the people. Get ready, because we've got things to do for God. I love you. Next time, Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. We'll see if we can break this shadow band. Thank you.